Hello dear friends.
I start recording a new course, which I announced at the end of last year, and we can label it with such important 3 terms. First, thinking in chess and the discipline of this thinking, decision-making. These are the 3 postulates. So, this course will be a complete simulator. I'll tell you briefly and clearly what you'll see in this video. Why am I saying that? Because I'm going to make about a 5-minute video. I'm going to cut it out of this big 1-hour lesson. And in it, you're watching it right now, actually, you can buy every single issue in the store. There'll be issue number 1, issue number 2, and so on. Each issue will be at least an hour long, I think. And that's what's going to be inside each of these videos. So we're going to learn decision-making, good judgment, and disciplined thinking from 3 batches. There will be 3 batches in each episode. One of them will be entry-level, somewhere around the 1200 to 1300 level on liches. The second batch is somewhere around the 1700 to 1800 level on liches. And the third batch is 2200 level or more on liches. All the batches are taken from my students' batches. All examples. And we will train ways of thinking on each move, starting from the first move. Your task will be to stop every time, many times stop. On each task, stop the video. Think out loud, say what you have thought of and why. After that, you turn it on, listen to my response, and move on. And so there will be a huge number of tasks, I don't know, 60, maybe more. Even in 3 batches will accumulate. At least, almost every move will have some tasks. So we're just going to be practicing ways of just thinking correctly. Why do I emphasize simple thinking? I'm not going to take games that are, in the spirit of Mikhail Teria, where everything hangs, combinations of some kind, a whirlwind. These are complex positions that need to be studied separately on some separate examples, videos, in separate lessons. But here we will make simple decisions. Namely, why should we do this now and not that? What should we pay attention to? Why pay attention to this and not something else? Thus, this course will be useful for any player from the very beginner, which is characteristic, which is important, from the very beginner chess player up to the level of 2300 approximately on lices. That is, up to the level of such a strong first category or approaching candidate for master. Here I think that everything will be necessary for this. Now the question arises reasonably that, for example, if a chess player is a first-class chess player, will it be useful for him, let's say, to train on beginners' games, on games of the intermediate level, if he already has 200 to 200 there? Of course it will, because he will be able to crack all these tasks very quickly, like peanuts, making simple, easy decisions. Thus he trains himself in a fast mode, fixes his already, let's say, known skills, he just trains them. As if fixing, yes, this knowledge, he will pass the first game very quickly. In the second game, he will already have some disagreements, maybe some differences of opinion. And in the third game, of course, it will be of maximum benefit to him. But still, we have to admit that the level of 2.100 and above, it's only less than 5% in LIC, and all the others are from 0 to 2100, 95%. Of course, that's why I oriented to the fact that these levels can and know, even without inviting a trainer, they can. Here you can easily train by purchasing such videos. The cost of each such video will be 1,000 rubles, like any other video in my store. You cannot get these videos as a bonus when subscribing to Debuts of Life or Strategies of Life. They can only be purchased. I point this out so that there is no confusion for those who want them as a bonus.
So, let's start sommière.
Now at least a little bit you'll see how this is going to work.
Okay, first game, Beginner's game.
So, this is where I played with my son. Well, for so to speak, I did it this way. So he made most of the decisions, but in some places I didn't just correct him, I asked him the right questions, we discussed them. Here he is 5 years old, and so now you'll see how the decision will be made, I'll tell you. Well, we'll make a few moves. Well, all the further will remain inside this big video. Accordingly, acquire and you will train. You will have a super trainer, as if you were together with me on an individual lesson. The only difference is that you can't ask me, but I will explain every move. I'm going to explain each move shortly and clearly. So, in this position we played with the first level of lichess. And accordingly, here Rodion makes a g4 move. Why? Well, because he captures the center. He knows that it is possible and necessary to capture the center with 2 pawns. Now the question is, I'm going to go back now. The question is, would you make the d4 move now? Let's say, especially if you're a beginner. It's interesting, maybe you would bring out the knight or bishop, but the correct way of thinking is that there is first priority action, namely the capture of the center by pawns. And the second priority is the development of the pieces. Someone thinks that the development of pieces is forward. No. First capture the center with pawns, if such a thing is possible. So, is it possible to capture the center with pawns? Yes. And the correct move here is d4. Bishop goes to e6. In this case, now, please you can think how you would play. You can pause, you can answer out loud, because the tasks are generally not difficult. And let's see, how would you go here? What would be your best move? Maybe some of you would go d5 immediately attacking the bishop, and it's not a bad solution, but it's better to play knight on f3. Because attacking d5 is a good decision, and the bishop will probably retreat somewhere else, but our pawn has already moved out. We made a second move in the opening with the same pawn. That's not bad in principle, because we did it with pace. However, when we move knight to f3, it's a more correct way of thinking about it. Why? Because we've taken the center, now we have to move the pieces out. And from which flank is it better to move the pieces out? The king side.
Why the king's flank?
Because we want to castling the king as quickly as possible, to hide him. This is advantageous and useful, as the game goes to the king's checkmate. That is, the goal of the game of chess is to checkmate the opponent's king, which means we must take care of our king, namely castling it and attacking someone else's king. We want to checkmate someone else's king, but let's move on. So, knight to c6.
Please make your strongest move here.
And explain it, of course. I'm not going to say pause, or anything like that. Either pause every time, or just answer immediately if you can see the answer. Someone could develop an elephant here, and that would be fine. But of course, in this case it would be good to notice the d5 move. It's a fork, after all, and it's a piece win. So if you notice the possibility of forking, of winning, of eating some piece, do it immediately. Because the goal of the game of chess, although the goal of chess is checkmate, we usually can't checkmate right away. We have to get to the king first, and we have to overcome some obstacles and rushes and pieces. And if we eat those pieces and pawns, it'll be easier for us to get to the king. If his whole army is eaten, then, accordingly, such a king will get a quick checkmate. So eating is a very important principle. And here is the correct move here, d5. After the move d5, the bishop went to g4. Well, the game was played, you can see it in my account. That is, it's all transparent, how everything works, that is, you can always see everything. Well, and after this move is an important question. Now think about how you would go. And accordingly the answer is this. When the opponent makes a move, you must ask yourself why he went here. This is a mandatory way of disciplined thinking. Disciplined thinking is even more important than thinking itself. That is, if you can discipline yourself to ask the right question every time on every move, everything, you will grow like on yeast literally. So the opponent has made a move. See if there's a direct threat. Is the bishop to beat on f3 a threat? No, it's not. Good. Because the knight is protected, and in fact, there is no threat to the queen or to the king. If there is no threat, that is, if there is a threat, then we should react to it accordingly. I will teach inside each such release. In each video there will be dozens of times the correct answer to the question, when there is a threat, how exactly to work with it. But since there is no threat here, the question arises, can we remember we made a fork to eat this horse? We can, because there's no other threat. Alright, we've got it, we've won the piece. Next, the bishop hits f3. Here I think, that's exactly the task we'll study. And then I'll complete, so to speak, this part of the demo, so that you understand how it goes, what will happen, in fact, next. As you would understand how this lesson is organized.
And every lesson like this.
So the elephant beat the knight. Now think about how you would respond. The thing is that in such situations quite often beginner chess players can, for example, eat the c6 pawn on b7, simply not noticing that the queen is under attack. And then it is possible to lose the queen, to eat the rook, to turn a pawn into a queen for 1 second, but only for 1 second. Here black has a winning position, so this move would be a mistake. We can take, of course, ZHF. But this move is not good either, because we double our pawns. And for more experienced chess players it's easy, but for beginners it's not obvious. So all things being equal, try not to double your pawns so they don't trip each other up and expose the position of your king's potential castling. The correct answer here is
The queen beats the f3.
that is, how should we reason? The bishop just made a move. He took our knight.
1 et athée à piece.
And 2. Is there no threat? Why did he come here? There's a threat. Question. Can the threat be destroyed? Answer. Yes.
We can destroy the threat. What do we destroy it with?
We see it as a pawn or queen. We take the queen, because first of all, our queen begins to actively enter the battle. And that's right. And we do not give up our pawns. And so on. So this way we'll finish 27 moves of this game. 21 more moves left. Then we'll take apart the second game of my student's 1700 level and the third game of 2240. So all 3 games will be fit into one video. If it's more than an hour, it's more than an hour, it doesn't matter. But each such release will have 3 batches of solid decision-making simulator. Decision-making thinking, ways of thinking, and the discipline of that very thinking. Well, that's the end of my demo, and I'll continue for those who have purchased this video.